Hey, this is Michael Lindsay, and welcome to episode 2 of the Off-Camber podcast presented by Specialized. This week's guest is Andrew Short, and I found this conversation really interesting. I've ran into Andrew many times over the last 2 or 3 years, and pretty much every conversation we have ends up being about or turns towards rally, because that's what Andrew is truly passionate about these days. And you'll find it really quick in this conversation, and he's going to bring it up multiple times, is how he feels like he's a kid again. The first time as a kid, if you remember the first time you got that dirt bike, that adventure, that freedom aspect. And that's what he's experiencing with this type of racing. While yes, he cares about his results, and he's definitely stepped it up a lot this year in Dakar and in the World Rally Championship in general. What he's really taken away from this is the experiences that come with it. And it's great to listen to him not just talk about his results, but about all the work that goes into it, the different aspects of rally other than having to be fast on a bike, and also all the people and the locations that he's getting to see. And even more interesting is how it kind of came about. He's not a desert racer growing up or rode in big open deserts or fast locations that you might expect for a rally racer. Grew up trail riding in Colorado, but it just happened to be because of a kind of a one-off experience testing a bike that kind of made it all click for him. So I'll let him roll through all that in this episode. Before we jump into it, I want to thank the 3 brands that are making this podcast happen. We are presented by Specialized, the all-new Specialized Turbo Levo, giving riders the power to ride more trails. The big S is around the pits a lot because they support a ton of riders in our sport, giving them great equipment. So it's always good to support those that support us. Check them out, specialized.com. They probably have any kind of bicycle you can imagine. Also new, Fox Racing. They've got 3 sets of gear that came out for spring. Their airline set, they've got a limited edition ice. They've got a black chrome and a red. Tim Geiser, PC Guys, Ken Rocks, and have all been running it lately. If it's warming up in your area, check that vented gear out at foxracing.com. You can also check out the gear at shapmoto.com. As a supporter of this podcast is also Chaparral Motorsports. They've been in business for over 30 years, where it's dirt bikes, side-by-side, dual sport, quads, name it all. They've got it. Riding gear, parts, accessories. Check them out, shapmoto.com. Punch in the code ML512 at checkout to save yourself a few dollars. Now let's jump into our conversation with Andrew Short. Hey, this is Michael Lindsay. Welcome to another episode of the Off-Camber podcast, presented by Specialized. I've got Andrew Short here. I did a quick drive out to Lake Havasu, Arizona last night, pretty late, because there is a works race here this weekend. There's a couple guys in town I wanted to catch up with, and you were one of them because I haven't gotten to speak to you since the last trip through Dakar, your second run, and it went pretty well. I'll just leave it at that. That's where I wanted to start talking, is how was the second year experience?
Yeah, for me, rally's been a whole new adventure and a whole new animal. Coming from motocross and supercross, it's so cookie cutter. And I had this passion for trail riding and getting out and exploring, and then somehow discovered rally. So that was like the ultimate adventure. And so the first year I went, my eyes were wide open. It was like a dream come true. It was crazy. And I was just trying to take it all in without getting hurt too bad.
You did get hurt, just not.
Yeah. Well, you can trail ride and not get hurt and have a good experience. But when you're riding for a good team, and also just, I want to compete and I want to be, so sometimes I would start pushing and that would end up on my head. So I had some big crashes the first year, but overall it was amazing. The route, it started in Peru, and the first 5 days were really hard, but really cool. The reason it was so difficult is we were in big sand dunes, which is where we raced this year. The terrain was awesome. It was the most memorable for me, that section. And from there we went to Bolivia, and Bolivia was full of rain and crazy roads and dodging animals, and I've never seen a culture like that as well. And it was completely different. It seemed like there was a lot of poverty, but people were really happy. But also it seemed like real communist style, and I've never been in a situation like that. And when we rode into La Paz, which was the rest day, I think there was they say there's over some crazy amount of people on the road, like over 1 million people or 4 million people. The number I think's saturated, it's not for real, but I've never seen so many people on the side of a road as we were riding into town, and this town was so futuristic and stuff like that. So from there, the race went to Argentina, and that was similar to Peru, just not quite as extreme. But just the whole adventure of the first year was really cool, and it's made me really excited for this year to go in there for the second year.
So I remember, I'm trying to think, prior to your current gig with Rockstar Husky, when you were kind of doing, I don't know, we call it brand ambassador media, the thing you were doing with Honda. You were at some media events with with us guys when we were basically testing out new bikes, and we were at Racetown, Sunrise, whatever you want to call it now. Me and you were talking quite a bit about like helmets and rally stuff, and I could tell you were like, you didn't directly I think say at the time, but you were asking a lot of questions like to different people there, and we were just all kind of talking about it. So I'm guessing at that time is when the bug must have bit you, because you seemed pretty interested in the idea of going rally racing. Like where, like I said, where did the bug come from?
Yeah, it's exactly that. Motocross, supercross, you have no time to do anything, and if you are out trail riding or riding in the mountains, it's not really fair to the team and the people that support you, and you have to be 100% dedicated. And so year after year, I always wanted to go ride in Colorado. So stuff like that, I'd go have fun on a dirt bike like I was a kid again. And then with that job, being a brand ambassador, I was primarily there to test. But I also like doing those media events and going riding in the hills and doing stuff like that. And throughout that, one day I was with Gothic J, and
so you probably spent more time riding with Gothic than
testing. Yeah, no, it was like October, November. It was before Supercross had even started, and it was right actually when I started the job. And so we went up to the high desert, and Johnny Campbell and those guys, they were testing their bike, doing durability testing, and they're like, "Hey, you want to try this bike?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, sure." And I did one lap, and I was hooked. This thing was so much fun, and just ripping in the desert and going cool places. So after that, I was like, okay, I got to build my own rally bike, and I want to go try this, because I knew there was a lot of strategy, and it wasn't so simple. You had to have, you had to be smart. You had to understand how to navigate, which was a whole nother beast. But it was more of an endurance race, and it was just trying something new on something that I loved. So then when I went to Sonora, I was really hooked, and that was, I don't know, it was the same weekend as Detroit. So it was about this time of the Supercross series, we're doing it. It's about midway, halfway through. And so once I did Sonora, I was hooked. And from that point on, it was my new hobby. And I loved trail riding, and that was all fun. But this was like a new way to compete on a motorcycle. That was fun, interesting, and I wasn't good at it. I hadn't mastered it, and I had no expectations. I had nowhere to go but up. So from that point on, that was what I was into, and that's what I like to talk about. It's like I'd see you guys, or I see certain people, and I knew they'd been to races or different events, and so I'd ask them, "Hey, what's this like?" Or, "What's your opinion on this?" And that's another thing about desert racers is you can look at them, you're like, "Hey, they're running like a paper towel on their visor or certain things, before they leave," and you're like, "Oh, that's strange. Like, why are they doing that?" And little tricks and stuff that they've done over the years. And so that part was interesting to see how they approach racing and the strategy, and I was hooked. So yeah, I'd talk to you, everybody that I could, and try to figure out how to get better and different places to go ride.
So you actually get into wanting to do it. Like, I mean, at the time you were with Honda, was the opportunity just not there when you started talking to him about it? And how did the doorway open to be with Rockstar Husky? Because this is now your second year with the team.
Yeah, no, it was, I don't know the politically correct way to say it, but it was strange. I was contracted to do a job here in the U.S. and help with the guys with motocross and supercross. That's why they hired me, not to do the the media stuff. Like, that stuff I enjoyed, and I liked hanging out with you guys. And so it was like, cool. I was already out here anyway in California, so why not go to a media event and go ride the new bikes? Or sometimes I go do production testing. So in a sense, I think they saw value in that, and that's what they wanted from me. They didn't want me to go race rally, and honestly, for them to invest in me to go do that and to learn, it was a big expense and not the direction they wanted for me. So once I figured out there was an opportunity to go with the Husky people and Rockstar, I jumped at it, and I did a few events. I did some smaller rallies here in the U.S., so I had some good experience, but nothing like for the World Rally Championship or something like that. So the first race I went to, I just got doors blown off me, and I wasn't even close to being competitive, and I only had a few months before Dakar. But with the situation being, Pela Rene was the guy I replaced, and he had a big injury in Chile last year. And so from that point on, they didn't have anybody to compete, so they were looking to invest in somebody for the future. And so I was kind of thrown in to the deep end, and it worked out. But for me, it was awesome. Like, it was a huge opportunity. It's the best team and the best group, and they've been really successful at Dakar for 18 years. And so it was just perfect. And so I was happy I was able to do good this year, because if I didn't do good this year, I probably would have been out. And obviously, like I said earlier, I want to compete. I think there's something about that in life that's fun. And if you're not competitive, it's not enjoyable for me or the team or the people involved. So I'm happy I was able to improve in 1 year.
So as you said, you kind of did some warm-up events to get used to rally, and then you go do your first one on the professional circuit, which it wasn't that much time before you had to go to Dakar the first time. With it being that big of an eye-opening experience, did it, not to say you ever think anything is going to be easy, but then after that, were you nervous going into Dakar after realizing what the difficulty really was? Did it change that whole, like I said, outside looking in before you're doing like, oh, doing Dakar is going to be an amazing experience, but then you go through your first world rally and get the shock to the system, then you're like, oh, what have I gotten myself into? Kind of, did that sink in, that kind of feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I knew those guys were fast, but you don't realize how fast they are. It's like everybody specializes in something, and I know inside I can ride a bike fast. There's no question. Like in my mind, I feel like I can go as fast as anybody. There's always going to be the highest level, and that's going to be hard to accomplish in any sport. But I know I can go fast. So I figured the first one, I knew I got the doors blown off, and I wasn't competitive. But I figured out once I learned to navigate and understand how everything works, I'll be competitive really quick. But that wasn't the case at all. It took me a long time, and I'm still far from the top guys. There's a whole nother level in front of me still. And you have to be willing to take big chances, but you have to be smart. Like, you have to be on it on all levels. So for me, I thought it would come much sooner, and I thought I'd be competitive much. Like the first Dakar, I was thinking, I can be top 10. I thought that was realistic, but I wasn't even close. Even before I got hurt at the end, I had no chance from the time it started till it ended. I wasn't even close. So, but it gave me something to work for and I don't know. I woke up every day wanting to be better at it, and it gave me a new goal and it gave me a new appreciation for how special the sport is and what it takes to be good at it.
I think it's funny because you said you commit your whole life prior though to motocross, supercross, and you get so close to the cusp of the best there, and there's a certain point where making any improvement is pretty darn hard. Even though it's still a motorcycle, it's got to be fun going to rally to kind of have something that you have knowledge, you have experience towards, but also it's so different than so different compared to other forms of motorcycle racing. It gives you something to chase again, and something that you can noticeably make improvements and make some big jumps at, huh?
Yeah, it's like the gains are huge. When you first ride, you first learn how to ride, when you first jump that double and you're like, yeah, that was rad, and the next thing you jump a double that's like twice as big or something, that's so much fun, exciting. It makes you stoked to go to the track the next time, or if they make a new jump, you're all excited, nervous. And then once you do it for so long and you get to a high level, then you're looking for just these small gains, and those make a huge difference, but they're so hard to get. And honestly, I think most of that's just mental. But for rally, I felt the same way as like when you're a moto guy starting out at first, and I was making big gains. I'm still making big gains. And so from here on out, I'm looking for the smaller gains, I think, to get to the next level. But that's what's cool about it. It's like when you finally start to understand the navigation, when you understand you have a little, just some strategy and where you're at and when to push and when to kind of chill out and watch everything unfold and to see it for the first time, it's always exciting, When motocross, you've been doing it for a while and you kind of know, and it always happens kind of the same way. You're not as excited. You just expect it. And with that uncertainty in racing and the surprise, and I think it just leads to more passion. And I don't know, I think it's just good in life to have some change like that. But rally there's change every day, and you never know what's around the next turn. And I really enjoy that aspect. Compared to motocross where the track, or like even supercross, all the tracks are pretty much the same. You can do everything by the second or third lap. There might be one section that's difficult, that you have to really think about and stuff. But rally, it's like you never know what to expect, and you have to adapt all the time. And so after so many years of doing the same thing over and over, I really, really like that.
Well, I was laughing because grown up in the desert a lot, riding, done some hare and hounds and stuff. So I'm relatively understanding what the speed it is, even though Dakar speeds average are higher, you still have kind of from that aspect, I can wrap my mind a little bit around it. But then I think it's that false interpretation you get seeing it on TV. The highlights I used to watch at Dakar a few years ago, that overhead view from the helicopter, I think it gives you a false of like, that doesn't look that bad. That nah, like they're going fast, but like it's not that bad. And then you see somebody has like one of the locals standing with their phone, watches one of you blow by, and you're like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, so I didn't grow up in the desert either, like, so you've actually like seen that stuff. I've never done that, and I grew up in Colorado. So
you really decided to go to like 180 with your career.
Yeah. But every time there's a cameraman, it's at a waypoint. So every time you're seeing something, it's because you're supposed to like change direction, or there's a danger, or there's something. So that's
they're waiting for you to fall in a wash.
Yeah, no, it's a known point. It's a known GPS coordinate. So how are you going to send like a cameraman or crew out to the middle of nowhere, You have to give them a GPS point. So it has to be a known. They're not going to put you on the course where you're just like hauling the mail, So anytime you're at one of those places, you always chill out. Like that's the rule of thumb. If you see a camera, anything like that, you better be like off the throttle. And so that's kind of when you're like changing gears. Like you're coming up and you'll be going at a certain cap heading if you're just in the dunes or whatever, and you have to hit the waypoint. So if you can't find a waypoint, you start looking for cameramen. Like you're like, okay, maybe I'll get lucky and I'll see somebody, or something like that. So typically what you see on TV isn't, I feel like you do get a false sense of how fast it is or the pace and the rhythm of it. And honestly, the race is so long, the pace and the rhythm always is changing too. Like some days you're just flat out the whole day and you're super tired and you don't realize what happened. And then other days it's like a fast trail ride. If there's a mass start and you're all in the sand, or even if it's not a mass start and it's all sand, the front guy's going to get caught because he's leading out and he's making tracks. And you can go so much faster if you have tracks to follow in the dunes, because you can see where there's crests and where there's cuts and stuff like that. Or if you have somebody 10 feet, 20 feet in front of you, you know when to gas and brake. That makes a huge difference in the dunes. And so you can just sit on somebody and go much slower and save a lot of speed, where the front guy's pinning it, using all this energy, and he's basically taking all the danger, So the rhythm and the pace, it changes all the time. And it depends on the terrain and where you're at and even the position you're at and the strategy for that day. Like some days you'll catch a guy in front of you and you already gained 3 minutes on him because you started 3 minutes in front of you. So maybe you're in a good spot and you don't want to go too fast for your start position the next day and stuff like that. So in that sense, it's kind of like cycling, it's like a game of poker. And but then other days, like you're just totally exposed and you better pin it and go super fast and take some chances, So that's the beauty of it. It changes every day. You better be ready to adapt and be smart about it.
Well, that's why I liked watching this year. It was really up and down day to day. The first couple of days, it was just trade of leaders over and over, and it seemed like every day whoever led out would have a massive navigational error, something the chart, like the timesheets day to day were jumping all over the place. And then as it finally mellowed out at the very end of the rally between Pablo and who was it going, and Toby right at the end, they just basically had to do that final day. It was full gas or nothing, but the rest of the rally before that had been completely up and down. So it was super interesting to watch this year, because it was like for the first couple of days there was so much trade around. I was like, I had no clue nobody was pulling out a gap. Nobody was really kind of standing up as the clear winner for the year.
Yeah, and the promoter ASO, who also does the Tour de France, they do a good job of kind of laying out the race. That's their job, but they want the strategies to not be so predictable. So some days they'll do a mass start where nobody has that disadvantage, like what you were saying. If you lead out, you're going to lose a lot of time, And so then you have to, if you're one of the top guys, then they put their strategy around how the race is laid out. And I think it's cool because not every day is the same, and different people would react to different situations. Like Sam Sunderland's super fast in the dunes. Like Toby, he can go fast anywhere, but if you have a super fast road, he's like Superman on that stuff, man. He can see the dangers and he has no problem coming within inches of death, I think, and it doesn't faze him. Where if I do that, I'm backing off the throttle, and for the next 10 minutes, I'm scared, He's not like that, so he'll be super fast in those stages. So it's cool because there's a balance of everything for everyone, and I don't know, it's a unique sport, but still dirt bikes. It's still about going fast, and I don't know. I think it's the biggest race in the world in terms for dirt bikes. It has a huge following, and the numbers and all that it's pretty cool just to be a part of a race that big and that special.
Yeah, I think for anybody that wants to get a better view of it, like I kind of skipped over it earlier, but when we were talking about the coverage of it this year, I actually went and found, like, just on IG, started hitting up some of the Dakar hashtags and finding the locals. Mostly my favorite is to watch the guys that stand on top of the dunes all day and film with their phone, like the dune sections between watching the big, the mechanic style trucks trying to get through that, the cars to the bikes and everything. Like, if you want a real good trip, I say go hit the hashtags on IG and find the locals. The locals clips are just insanity, what you see. So if anybody really wants a good view of that, go in there. But so let's talk a little bit about, like I said, it's different. So the biggest thing is the navigation side of it. Going into your first year, I mean, just for people that don't understand what it's like to navigate at speed, your first year, if you had to give me a ratio of like how fast or how hard were you able to push yourself, say it's 80-90%, and still accurately navigate, was there, between year 1 and 2, is there a big difference in that for you?
Yeah, it just has to become natural, and the more you do it, it's normal. It's like when you get a new phone, at first you're like fumbling around, or it sounds silly, but you get a new iPhone and the one had the home screen button and the other one doesn't, like at first you're always tapping. So the more you get familiar with this stuff, the quicker and faster and more natural it becomes, especially when you're at speed. So I was always so scared of crashing just because I was on the wrong road. That's the other thing. It's like you think you're on the right road and it says there's no dangers for 2 or 3 kilometers, so you're just supposed to open the throttle and go wide open. But if you're on the wrong road and you hit some big danger, or there's a cliff, or who knows, a fence, anything, and you can't get stopped, that's what I was most scared about, And so once you have the experience and navigation, you have the feeling of what's right and what's wrong and stuff like that, then you can learn to push and you're not playing with fire so much. And so I think it's huge, but it's just everybody adapts differently and they learn different speeds, and to ride at a high speed, it has to be normal. And when you're learning navigation, it just takes a long time to understand and do that. And also kilometers for a U.S. person.
I struggle with that even with cycling when I'm just watching the Tour of the one-day classics. Like, it takes a reset every year because I don't talk in kilometers for 6 months, and then the Tour, the one-day classics come around for cycling, and I try to get back into trying to get my mind around what a kilometer is for a while.
Well, that's just like total distance, but your notes on what you're doing to navigate, you're supposed to go 100 meters at this cap heading, of 96. And then in 200 kilometers, you're going to take a cap heading of this. And then, 1.5 kilometers after that, there's this danger. And it's all in one note. So you're trying to think about all this, but you don't really know how far 100 meters is, right?
And you're trying to do this.
Yeah, and hold it wide open and dodge people, or, you never know what's there, whether it's wildlife, people, bush, stones, the road got washed out. There's always something. And so that's why I say it has to be natural. And to learn all that and to have the feeling of what 100 meters feels like going slow when you're turning, and then what 100 meters feels like when you're going wide open in 5th or 6th gear feels like, because that's totally different, So I would go to the dry lake bed in Pahrump with Jimmy Lewis and just set out cones with him. I did that once or twice just to get a feeling, okay, this is what 200 meters looks like,
When you're going like 95 miles an hour.
Yeah, like this foam pole to this foam pole. Okay, yeah, that's about 150 kilometers, It's like you learn all those things, and then you learn what it feels like. And then the other thing is when you're in the dunes, it looks completely different, or the feeling is completely different than if you're on a road. So in the dunes, you have waypoints. The waypoints, they validate at different distances, so like a WPC will validate pretty much, it depends on the race, but some of them are 200 meters, some of them validate at 90 meters. So you have to know, okay, if it validated at 200 meters, I still have to ride 200 meters to get to the center of the waypoint, even though it already checked off back there on the computer, and then turn. Because if you turn too early and you hit the radius of that one, then by the next one, you're going to be really off, and so then you'll miss the 3rd or 4th one. And so understanding all that as you're riding and, and knowing the cap heading. If there's a big dune and you're going at like cap heading 180, but you can't go that way because the dune's too big, you can't ride over it. So you have to veer off to one side to go around it to know how much to come back. So those are things you have to have a feeling for. It's kind of like sailing or whatever, you know, but you're on a motorcycle going through the dunes and there's no landmarks to have any reference with. And so those are things I say I had to learn and be confident in and wait for them to be more natural. And so it's taken a long time, and sometimes you still don't get it. Obviously, everybody makes mistakes, and sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't. But that's part of the challenge and intrigue to me.
So did you ever think when you grew up riding dirt bikes, you know, chasing Supercross, it's like, I just have to be fast on a dirt bike and have good cornering speed? Now it sounds like you have to be a mathematician, good at geography, good at a couple other things.
Yeah. And like like knowing your bike, like those are certain things that are, what happens if your bike gets stuck in water and it goes on and you suck water? You know how to get it going? Do you?
I do. It's a pain in the butt.
Okay, so what if you're on the clock and you have people going by you, or that's your race? Think about it that way. Or your hours from people coming to get you. You know, you're going to be there for 36 hours until someone comes and gets you. Then it's like those things you never thought about. Like if you could just push your bike back to the truck, then go home, whatever. But now it's like, okay, I have a front tank, rear tank. How am I going to get the water out and have enough fuel to get to the next, you know? Like those things I never cared about or would even think about, you know, or what happens if there's no battery or the regulator goes out, or how are you going to start your bike, or if you crash and break the switch, or if your navigation tower breaks, you know, how are you going to find your way to the next, you know, all these things is what makes it fun. It's not one-dimensional.
Somebody's listening on that doesn't sound like fun, Andrew. That doesn't sound like fun.
No.
He is. Look how excited he is. And there's somebody that's going to watch this and go, no.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like, you got to think of moto and stuff as like a sprint, and then this is more like a marathon, or this is like, I always say, it's like climbing Everest. It's the adventure. Sometimes, yeah, it's not fun, but it's the end destination and the experience and all that makes it fun. And when you do, you make it to the end, or you figure that out. And I think there's some joy in that. And I don't know, it's just, that's part of the addiction. Is it's not easy. It's hard, you know, and it's a test within yourself, and it's not just about riding. But I mean, it is ultimately to do good, but there's more to it, you know. You have to be better than the next person.
Do you guys actually do like training at the shop for all the stuff you were talking about? Like, do you guys actually go through a full course of, so here's how you fix this, here's how you do this? Do you guys have to train and all that as well, or is that just kind of up to you if you want to learn it per se?
Yeah, no, it's a big part, especially before Dakar, and then all the tools on your bike and knowing where everything's at and using those. And it's cool also because you have marathon stages. It's where you'll have a stage, you start, you ride, you know, you do the whole stage, and you stop, and you have no assistance. So it's typically in Dakar, they put you in military bases or some big like compound, you know, like it could be a basketball arena, and they can lock you in there, you know. So you have no support from your mechanics or parts or anything. So you have to be really smart with your bike, whether it's tires or anything. You don't want to be stupid or have any big crashes. So then you have to know, okay, I got to carry brake pads. You have to know how to replace everything, and know what maintenance items you're going to need to prepare the day before, so you can bring those. So that part's cool. So there's a lot of thought that goes into those also. The year before, my teammate, we switched wheels, and I actually didn't do it, and he didn't do it. We had another guy switch them, but the axle nut didn't get tightened all the way. So his axle nut came off maybe 80, 90 kilometers in. Then the wheel twisted, obviously. Brake came off, hit the exhaust. Bearings were gone in the wheel. No rear brake. Big fiasco, you know, and he was in good position to win the race until that happened. And it was all because we changed tires, and the difference between my tires and his tires wasn't a huge difference, but it cost him big time, you know. So you have to be really smart and pay good attention to detail and know how to, like, something's not right, I better stop, fix it right now, so it doesn't escalate and turn into something way worse, you know, later on. Because I was 30 minutes behind him. It took me a long time, at least 30 or 40 minutes, because his start position, plus I was losing time to him till I got there, and I could give him an axle nut to get going again, you know. And at that point, he didn't have the one side, the wheel bearing is against the swing arm, but the other side has the collar, and he already lost the collar from when he taken it out. So he had to ride the rest of the day with, it was just a a complete disaster. So that's why I say you do have to be smart, and there's a lot to it, and you have to be responsible for yourself. And I don't know. I think that's the intrigue behind it, and that's what makes Dakar special. And you talk to people and they think Dakar now is like super easy, and it's not what it was. And so I think back in the day in Africa it was twice as long, way gnarlier. You stayed in tent. Like our team, we have a motorhome that goes to the bivouac to bivouac. So we're spoiled in that sense. And it's gnarly. So I can't imagine what it was like starting, how it used to, and cover that much distance and be in that atmosphere. So it's crazy how hard and demanding the race is, but I think it used to be way worse.
Hey, we're just taking a quick break from our conversation with Andrew Short so we can thank the 3 brands that make this podcast happen. First off is Specialized. They are our presenting sponsor. The Specialized Turbo Levo is all new, and it gives the riders the power to ride more trails. If you haven't been on an e-bike yet, check one out. They're really quite an interesting training tool, and it's just awesome to see people that normally wouldn't be able to get out on big rides or experience mountain biking for all of what it is, to be able to jump on one of these e-bikes and really get the full experience. I think it's quite awesome what that product's doing out there. Number 2 is Fox Racing. They've got some pretty cool stuff coming, but latest thing that they have released is their Springline gear. They got Airline in 3 different colors. They got limited edition Ice. They've got black chrome and a red. Geiser, Kenny, PC Team guys been rocking the last couple weeks. Also, check back. They had some other cool LEs from earlier in the year, like their A1, their military gear, and they definitely have some more coming as the year keeps going. Check out foxracing.com. And third off, Chaparral Motorsports, big support of everything we do here. They've been around for more than 30 years. Dirt bikes, quads, side-by-sides, scooters, dual sport, everything between parts, accessories. I mean, just their helmet and goggle area is as big as most dealerships. If you can think of it, they pretty much have it covered. Check them out, chatmoto.com. Punch in the code ML512 at checkout to save yourself a few dollars. And thanks for your support of this podcast. We're going to get back into our conversation with Andrew Short. So, speaking of Africa, I know there's a little bit of rumor floating around where the race is actually going to be held in the future. Originally, they left the Africa region due to unrest and just some security issues, but I know South America's gotten a little more like that the last few years. They've had to thin down how many countries are actually able to cut through due to political reasons, other stuff, and I don't know if you guys officially know where you're going next year, but if you had the choice based on what you've seen from what you've experienced and you look at the past Dakars, would you want to go back to Africa and experience that?
For me, it'd be cool to do once, but I don't think I'd want to do that like year after year. Where Peru, it's special. Like the terrain is unreal. It's nowhere else I've ridden that has been that cool. And I've ridden in North Africa and Morocco a lot. That's like the Corona, California for a rally. I'm going there next week. We go there quite often. And the Merzuga dunes are really cool and nice, but nothing like Peru. And I think Chile's really nice. I've ridden there, and the landscapes there are cool, and it'd be nice to have Dakar go Peru, Chile, Argentina, maybe Bolivia, something like that. But it sounds like even more so than Africa, Saudi Arabia is wanting to pay a lot of money to have the race, and maybe there with Abu Dhabi, or even crossing with a ferry to Egypt is what they're saying. And there's a lot of speculation. You never really know, but
can you imagine a marathon stage like cutting through Abu Dhabi and all the like Lamborghinis, McLarens passing all the crazy?
That's where our next race is. So it's a crazy place there, and all those guys have big sand toys too as well. Oh, yeah. So yeah, and those dunes there, I have big problems with. I get seasick there. There's something to do with the color of the sand.
The sand grain,
yeah, it plays tricks on my mind. I don't know why, but I can't. I get seasick bad there. So I don't know. Those dunes are difficult, but they're not. They're just different, and they're not really fun to ride. I don't think they don't have a good flow. Where Peru has a good flow, like for moto, it's fun to ride and it's enjoyable. So I don't know. It's interesting. ASO they make. I don't want to say they make a lot of. They charge a lot of money to host this race because there's such a following behind it, and I don't know. It's interesting to learn the whole business dynamic behind it. And I think the South American countries have paid a lot of money for a long time. And I think at this point, with the political situation there and The money, it seems foolish for me for a country to pay 20 to 30, 40 million euros when that money can go really far in their local economy and maybe infrastructure and for their own people, than to just keep hosting the race. I think they've gotten enough advertisement out for tourism.
People understanding what's going on in their country.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing for tourism. If you can host a race like this, it shows all these landscapes and it shows the country how beautiful it is. But when you're going through the same places year after year, I think it loses the appeal. And ASO is still demanding a huge sum of money, from my understanding. I'm not too educated on it, but well, I don't know. For me, it'd be cool to go somewhere new. I don't think I have many chances left or opportunities to race this race. I'm not sure where it will go, but for me, I'd like to go somewhere new.
So the one last thing we'll touch on rally before we move on from that conversation, because that's been the big chunk of this, but that's been like I said, I can see from talking to you, you truly enjoy it. So it's cool to hear somebody is so into it and is so passionate about it. But something people may not realize is actually a really, at least I think of it when I actually think of all the aspects involved with it, even though it sounds simple, is all the transfer stage stuff you guys were doing this year. Do you ever get like tunnel vision, just want to fall asleep on your bike, just going down there?
Yeah, there's so many things like this in rally that you never hear or understand. But this year the transfers weren't that bad because we weren't going from country to country. It's hard because you're up till really late. You're doing your road book and all this other silly nonsense, and you wake up super early and you have to transfer to the start of the stage. And it's dark. The lights aren't super good on the bike, and these countries, the roads are really hard to see. The asphalt and the roads themselves are just kind of dodgy.
Say what roads?
Yeah. Well, there's potholes everywhere. Sometimes you're riding up these mountains and rocks have fallen. You come around a turn and it's chaos. I mean, people get hurt. The first year I went to Dakar, we made it 50 kilometers down the road and there was a dude with 2 broken wrists and we've only been on pavement and we haven't even started the race yet. Like situations like this happen all the time. Our people get hurt. Skylar House, one of the Americans, where did he get hurt? On the Liaison, riding through a town, trying to dodge a dog, that ran out in the middle of the road, laid it down because he would have just smashed a guy on a scooter if he didn't lay it down, because he was dodging a dog, almost hit the guy on the scooter. Like, dislocated his shoulder, Dakar done. Not while he's racing and going, wide open through the desert. It's crazy how it works like that. So there's a lot of fatigue and it's great. I mean, it's different because you start the stage, you're riding, you have to stop, get gas at a gas station, weird things like this, try to eat, go pee, whatever, maintain yourself, and you're all on the clock kind of, and you have to keep a set time before you go. And so as a motocross dude, never doing even enduro or anything like that, all this was way over my head, and I would stress out about this stuff when it was essentially free time for the other people. So there's a lot that goes on, and it's hard. Like, even your shoulders just get sore from keeping your hand in the same spot from riding hours after hours, going down the road. And it's always super windy, but it's really cool because you get to see the whole country. And a lot of times, even motocross, supercross, you go to all these cool places, but you just see the stadium. You never see what, the country.
Fly in, fly out.
Yeah. So, like, I've seen Peru a lot. I've seen Chile a lot. Argentina, Bolivia. I've seen the country for, places that most people don't normally go. And sometimes when you're racing, you almost want to stop and take pictures, sometimes just because it's so spectacular. But other times when it's on a liaison, you can't stop. But it's cool. That's the best part about rally, is you get to see all these areas, the amazing landscapes, and just the culture too, the people. And a lot of the races, the people come out and embrace it. They're really cool and nice. So that part's cool. But there's a lot of liaison and riding, and some people carry like an iPod or whatever, and then have some headphones and just jam out. But for me, I just take it in.
Well, I was about to say, because of that, people don't understand how the liaison sections work. You guys are on clock and you leave at certain times. You can't just go ride with your teammate. Sometimes you guys might be able to kind of catch up to each other, but a lot of times, like, you're not all just able to leave at once, correct, and ride together and per se BS or waiver point stuff out. You got to, like, if you catch somebody in the middle of it, works, but you're not able to just do a roll.
Yeah, no, you have your set time that you have to leave. And yeah, and there's speed zones, obviously, and those are things you have to learn when you start, is learn how that whole computer works and how it manages your race time. So even you can get caught out and lose time on that, just not hitting the right speed zone. Or if you go into a town and you're speeding, then you're going to get a big penalty, and they even charge you money for it, which is, so you want to pay not only just time, but you don't want to pay.
Who charge you, ASO or
ASO does?
Hey, I was laughing one the other night.
Money.
Dude, they do. Have you? I was laughing one last night. Another cycling one is they have the guys chuck their bidons, their water bottles to the fans all the time. I think it used to be like 100 Swiss francs for like chucking a bottle, and they don't actually. They usually try to throw them to fans so kids can get a team water bottle, and they're like, no, it's dangerous. So they're charging them now like 1,000 Swiss franc to like throw a water bottle into the crowd.
Crazy. Yeah.
It's like they're making money everywhere they can.
Yeah, they're good at it.
So actually moving on from that, reason we're here is you're also back racing domestically this year. Last year your program with Rockstar Husky was just the rally side of things, but this year you took on a spot for the Works series. How'd that come about? Are you excited to do some more domestic racing? And because of your deal with Husqvarna, I guess to touch on also is, do you have options to kind of try other stuff on top of your rally, other series you want to try maybe in the next couple of years and mix it up?
Yeah, no, for me, it was a cool opportunity that Timmy asked me from here in the U.S., and it seemed like Works was the best fit for me because the motocross background and desert, and I wanted to keep intensity in my riding, and Works seemed like the perfect thing. I've only done 2 races, and they haven't gone well. So this is the 3rd race here in Havasu, and the jury's still out, I guess, on whether it's been fun or not, but it's good for me to ride. I love riding, and like earlier I said, I love to compete, and I don't know, it's good to have something new, but most importantly, it's just the intensity. It's strange for me to be around people again. That's what's cool about rally is you're on the clock, and you're just trying to do the best that you can. You're not like throwing elbows with anybody. I enjoy racing the clock now, but I don't know. It seemed the environment at the races, it seems cool, and I miss going to motocross and supercross and the people, the community. Those are my friends for a long time, and that part I really miss. So for me, when I was home last year doing rally, you only have 5 or 6 events throughout the year. I was getting super going crazy at home, and so it was really cool for me to have this opportunity and to ride good bikes and to learn something new. So we'll see how it goes. I hope it goes better this weekend. But again, I think I also underestimated how good these guys are. It's like rally. You can't be good at everything. I feel like you have to pick and choose and focus your attention almost on one thing. So for me, I'm dividing my attention with 2 different disciplines, and I don't know if that's the best approach. I don't want to be mediocre at both. I want to be good at one thing, and I have a huge passion for rally. So we'll see where it goes or how it unfolds and try to learn and analyze on, what the outcome was and go from there. But I think the other thing too is I'm just doing it for fun. It's not like it's about money or anything else. It helps with the intensity. But ultimately I said, yeah, I'll go do it because it's fun. So if I'm not having fun, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, speaking of intensity, I don't think, people say it about GNCC, like, oh, you don't understand how gnarly, like, Strang and Russell are for 3 hours. That's here, it's 2 hours, but no, like, Taylor and, Robert and Zach Bell hanging out the whole freaking race. Yeah. It's pretty gnarly how hard those guys are willing to go for 2 hours. I
think it's interesting, too. You said, like, hey, is there any other opportunity to go do other racing, like Works, and then combine it with some GNCC or something like that. But I think those, like you said, those GNCC guys, they're so specialized, and for 3 hours, they're on it, And I think these Works guys are the same way. And I don't know. I think it's, if you're doing it purely for fun, then yeah, cool. Then I might as well just go show up in my truck and trailer and do it myself and not waste Husky's time and money and, all that because they want to win. So I'm kind of stuck in this weird predicament, It's like I want to have fun, but I also want to do good. So I think at some point I'm going to have to choose. But we'll see how it goes. And it's cool just to be involved with this program.
So this is a little bit of a rollback to something I was going to ask you earlier in the conversation, but you brought up a minute ago just about missing certain, interactions and people you've been around. When you did the Honda gig, you and Ken Roxon are pretty close buddies. And I know you were, I think
trying to think back when we guys went to the bike introduction in Alabama, you came out with him and you guys are working together quite a bit. When you decided to leave to pursue the rally deal, was it a sad situation? What was it like basically telling, also like all the guys that you were dealing with there, like, hey, I'm leaving? Was it a pretty rough day per se, like kind of emotionally for all the guys?
I think it was more emotional for me. I was super bummed. I like all those guys. I still really like all those guys. They're a good group of people. And I really enjoyed everything about that. But the whole rally thing was it was more about the life experience. It was something I'll never get back and an opportunity that I'll never forget. And I had to do it. On many levels, it didn't make sense. On many different levels. And where I was at was perfect. Because I really love the people. And like you said, I really like Kenny. I think I really believe in him. And I honestly didn't think he would care when I was leaving. And when I called him, because we didn't want to tell him at the track, we were testing that day. And they said, hey, we don't want to ruin his day. Let's let him focus on testing and blah, blah, blah. And I had a flight that afternoon, so I had to bail while he was still testing. So I called him when I was on the way to the airport. And he's like, well, yeah, I guess that's cool for you, but that really sucks for me. I'm like, I felt really bad because I care about him. And I care about all those people on the team. Like, I have some really good friends there. So I felt bad, but I think they also understand also, like it was a cool opportunity for me and something that I really wanted and needed to do. And
so in the time you've been doing this, because definitely transferring to rally is something you see, like in Braybeck's case, if it's a U.S. rider, it's somebody that's done like Hare and Hounds, Rio Nevada run, like something in the Score series, just something that relates more to the speed, to the desert, to the open conditions, coming from motocross, supercross. Now that you've kind of made that transition and made it successful this year, how many people come up and hit you up about it? Other guys that have raced Mo's Supercross or just are off-road? Do you feel like, have you had a noticeable amount of guys come up and ask you basically like, how'd you do it? Is it like doable? I'm kind of interested in it. Like,
I don't think, well, for one in the U.S., rally is like tiny, like nobody really knows. Honestly, I think by me racing it, it's really helped it bring a lot of awareness to it. And now that Ricky's just crushing it, it really helps also. It's in the media a lot. And so it's cool for the sport in general that the North American market, I think, is much better with us racing the rally stuff. And Caselli is the one that kind of brought it back for a while. There's been a lot of successful Americans that have done it before. But I think motocross, dude, like Beretta, the Honda guy, he was an old motocross. A lot of those rally guys, they started in motocross. And then they just slowly transitioned into rally. Or in a lot of these countries, if you live in South America, Dakar's huge. So you gravitate it. That's
like the end goal, not
that's like, yeah, exactly. That's where the money's at and the prestige and blah, blah, blah. It's the opposite for us here in the U.S., but definitely it's getting bigger. I think the only moto guy that's into it is Zach Osborne. I could see him doing it in the future.
Yeah, me and him had a conversation last year. I know kind of his end goal, like, I won't put words in his mouth, but I know he was kind of like hinting at the fact with motocross, supercross. He's like, look, when, his same really good relationship with Rockstar Husky, he was like, man, if, the spot isn't available on the supercross motocross team, he goes, I'm not going to push the issue to stay in there. He's like, I want to go to GNCC. And then he's been seeing what you do. And he started talking a little bit in a conversation we had about rally and everything. He's definitely got more of a open mind about doing a lot of that stuff, which is cool.
Yeah, I think when the timing's right for him, he has the perfect opportunity and the skills and the mindset to do it. So I don't know. We'll see. It's cool just to see that people are more into it and it's growing. And I think just here in the North American market, it's definitely bigger. Worldwide, it's always been huge. Especially certain countries in Europe, it's massive. Spain, France, Belgium, Holland. Those big trucks, the trash trucks they race, those things are huge, like in Russia. And
the Kamasas.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
I love watching the highlight reels. Just to watch those things like get through the dunes blows my mind.
Yeah. And even the cars, like, I don't know. I was behind Petter Hansel one day in the cars. It was pretty cool just to watch him go in and out, and it's nuts, dude. Full gas and commitment, and I don't know. The race is gnarly, not just for the bikes, but everybody competing. It's pretty cool.
Actually, that's kind of just a funny one to touch back to the watching, like, if you get a chance, like I said, anybody who wants to hit up IG and just go through the fan stuff, watching the difference between the trucks get through the dunes, the cars, and you guys on the bikes is funny. I feel bad for you guys on the bikes because the bikes are heavy. You guys are on a weird like, I have buddies that grew up riding in Glamas with me and stuff, and they're always like, oh, sometimes those guys look like they struggle so much in the dunes, so they know how to ride. And I'm like, dude, first of all, their bikes are heavy. They're not set up for it. They don't have tires that are meant for it. Those dunes are huge, like some of the biggest bowls you'd find in Glamas. And watching you guys try to navigate through that looks interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I like the dunes just because you have to have more bike skills, like what you're talking about. For me, it's much better just because it's easier, but. Yeah,
I just feel bad every time I watch like one of the I guess I want to compare it to like I see called like a club guy who's kind of like has the money, he's paid to go, and you see them go down the dunes and get all scared and their feet come off and the front starts sinking and then they hit the whole tower unit and just get creamed by their bike going down a sand dune.
Yeah, it's just that's how it is. And the cars, you feel really bad because they spend a lot. I think it's like 500,000 euro just to do Dakar in a car. And some of those guys, they'll go out on like day 2. You know, they're just stuck in the dunes. Nothing happened. But they're stuck. And you're just like, wow, that's a lot of money.
To sit there and shovel your way out.
Yeah, or they can't shovel, like they're stuck, you know? So, I don't know. It's a crazy race.
Last one for you. What, like I said, if Dakar is, say, another area of your dirt bike checklist, is there anything you have in mind after this? Or will this kind of, you think, clear up all your... Other than, of course, loving to just ride, period, is there anything else you have on your list of events you'd like to try that are in mind?
Nope.
Good after this.
Yeah, no.
Is that the answer you had to give? You had to give the missus. This is the last one.
No. She would go crazy if I was at home all the time. So I have a good balance right now. No, I love rally, and I'll probably do that for fun. You know, for as long as I can. There's some stuff here, and I love trail riding more than anything. I love going riding in Colorado or in the mountains, whether it's Idaho or there's multiple places to go. But I just love riding my dirt bike, and that will never change. And I never thought I would race rally. If you would have asked me at the end of my supercross and motocross career in 2016, are you going to race rally? I would have thought you were nuts. So for me, it's foolish to say, no, I don't have anything else. I don't know what's around the corner or where it may take me, but I'll be somewhere on a dirt bike, whether it's for a living or whether I'm paying for it, and I love it. So
actually, I do have one more because it's something you said there at the end of your motocross supercross career. You weren't already interested in it, but then it seemed like within a year or two you were. Is there a specific conversation? Was there someone you chatted with? Did you watch a highlight clip? Like, what is there an aha? You remember like a click? Like, I want to go do that.
Yeah, it was when I rode the bike up and
just the bike. Okay.
Yeah, and then once I started doing that, it was on. I'm like, okay, I'm buying. Yeah, I'm gonna build my own. And then once I did the one rally in Sonora, that was it. Yeah, I was hooked.
Okay, so it wasn't even a conversation. Just seeing that bike there jumping off for a minute. That was.
No, it's the feeling. It's like you're a kid, dude. You know, like you remember the first time you rode a dirt bike?
Oh yeah.
Okay, and then you're in the middle of the desert going to explore. It's like same thing when you're in a kid and you get your first bicycle and you go explore the neighborhood. And then you go a little further, then you head down towards the creek, and then you go past the creek the next time, you know? It's like, that's how rally is for me. It's like I'm just a grown-up kid on a really rad dirt bike, cruising and doing stuff that I shouldn't be doing, you know? And you get paid to do it, and you go to these cool places. It's like the ultimate, like, vacation. Like, for me, I wake up every day, and that's super fun, and I realize I'm very fortunate and blessed to do this, so I shouldn't take it for granted. And I get to compete doing it. It's like the best of everything. And so I'm just trying to delay the fact of like when I'm gonna have to get a real job or do something like that, or wake up and go do something else, you know? And because I always ride dirt bikes, but right now it's amazing. So yeah, I don't know what's next, but hopefully it's still cool.
Cool. Well, thanks for your time. Enjoy Havasu. I'll pre-warn you the hard pack track up top and just get ready for a lot of pebbles this weekend. The rooster hurts.
Great, yeah.
You're welcome. Thanks, man. Thanks for listening to this podcast with Andrew Short. If you missed last week's episode, it was with Don Maeda, and next week's episode will be with Davey Millsaps. If you enjoy these podcasts or anything else I've been doing on this channel, make sure you hit subscribe. We got plenty more content coming out